All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Griffin Initiative podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Halo Infinite and kind of like our experiences, the launch of Halo Infinite, what the downfalls, and like what our expectations were at the launch, and then how they continued on from the launch, downfalls, great bug fixes, or just fixes in general, great things that they did, and then after that, we'll basically talk about like current systems, what we really enjoy, what we don't like what they did better after launch, and then finally we'll talk about our opinions and whether or not we'll ever play this game again. We do have some information about the winter update that everybody
Yep.
already knows, but we're going to talk about the winter update as well since that's a huge hot ticket thing hitting next
Yes.
week. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into this. Hello, I am your host. My name is Joshua, and here I have today.
Hello, it is I, Leo.
Awesome. We've both been playing video games for a very long time. We were both
Yes.
extremely avid gamers. From Halo. I mean, I played Halo 1 way too many times. Same thing with Halo 2 and 3. Leo and I have played Halo for so long.
Yes. Quite a while.
And I'm also a game developer. I work at SkyMap Games, and I've been working there for just just over almost 2 years. And I've
That
also
sounds
been
about right.
doing. I also went to school for game development and game design and game programming. So I do have a good enough background to be able to kind of say what my thoughts are from behind the scenes and seeing how they've kind of developed their PR around protecting their people, but also not protecting certain aspects of their employers or employees. So we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about their launch. Leo, what did you think of their launch? Like, how did you feel about it?
So, going based off of purely when I heard they were announcing Halo Infinite, I was fairly excited for it. I thought they could do a lot with it. It looked like it brought back a lot of older features from what I saw in trailers and in announcements. So I was really excited for it. It looked like it would bring in a lot of good features, and it looked like it would be a nice change that would still feel like a classic Halo game and maintain that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they did a really good job with that too. Like when the game first came out, it really did feel like Halo. Like it didn't feel like Halo 4 where it was like it felt like Call of Duty. It didn't feel like Halo
Yeah,
5 where it felt like this really random game. It almost felt like Titanfall, to be honest.
yeah. I've only played Halo 5 once ever, and I believe it was at your house on your Xbox, and I
I
hated every second of it.
do
It was
remember that.
not enjoyable to me, at least.
No, it was
I'm
horrible.
sure. I'm sure there are some people who'd enjoy it, and you know what? That's fine. Not for
Yeah,
me though.
the multiplayer and like the content development for Halo 5 was on par. I mean, they killed it with supporting that game. I mean, you never saw anybody complain about a content drought with that game. It was
Hmm.
always like every couple months there was either an announcement, there was an update, there were more maps, there was more whatever going on, there was events going on for certain things. They
Yep.
continually added stuff to the game. Like it did ship not completed. Like I think we were seeing a huge pattern here with Halo where Halo 4 shipped completed, right? But it
Yeah.
was lacking in a lot of ways that made Halo really good. For example, multiplayer was a COD based matchmaking system.
Hmm.
Um, Halo 5 shipped without Forge and without a bunch of different modes, but they shipped with a fully functioning game. It was a little broken at launch, but it was pretty good. Everybody could say it was pretty good from a game standpoint. From a story, that's different. That's a whole separate podcast that you'll have to watch. But, Halo 5, it was a decent game, right? When you look back now, you say, damn, that game was really good because it was really well supported and it wasn't well received. It was really well supported by 343, and they
Hmm.
did a great job with keeping it as a live service game, right? Without saying it was a live service game, it
Hmm.
essentially was a live service game. Then, fast forward, what, 6 years, right?
Something like that. A long time.
Yeah, a long time. The throw in the Star Wars credits from a long, long time ago, except a long, long time in the
Honestly,
future, right?
Disney, please
Halo
don't sue.
Infinite. right? Halo Infinite is announced.
Pumped for it.
So excited. Huge hype.
And I
Immediately
know
delayed
you.
4 months later.
I don't know if this was true, but I do remember. I think I remember you were able to play one or two of the flights, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I was able to play 2 of the flights. Yeah.
I was not able to play those, so I don't have any experience with how those were.
They were great.
Um, from what I've heard, they were great.
Like, from a standpoint of it was a not released game, they were great for what they were. They were really good technical tests where they got to see, the fans and people react to the movement and the mechanics of the game that they had in there. And it was all really, really solid. Like, it was very good. It still had a ways to go, but it was solid. It's like playtesting any game. There's always going to be some ways to go, but it was solid for what they had. Um, the biggest thing that, from a game development perspective, I hated when they said, here's the multiplayer beta, right? 2 week beta. Have fun. And like the beta lasted until a week before the game released. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then they
Whether
said, we're extending it.
Yep,
Little
I
did
do
we
remember that.
little did we know. The beta was the game.
Hmm.
We had no idea. Why would you say it's an open beta? Right? Because it was an open
They
beta.
they just released it as a the multiplayer at least was free to play, and
Yep.
they said we are extending the beta because the campaign wasn't out yet. Campaign
Yep.
wasn't even like finished to my knowledge. Um, so to me that was a little off-putting.
Yep.
It didn't make much sense, but hey, you know what? I don't know much about how a game is made, so I was like, you know what? Fine, just let them do it.
Yeah, and like what was insane to me was when they said, "Here's the beta," and then like a week later, the game was supposed to launch. Like that was when it was launching. Was the next week, and it did
Yep.
launch the next week. The problem that I have with it is that they did the closed beta, and then they had a week before final launch for everything, multiplayer and campaign. Well, no, it wasn't and campaign. Campaign came out later.
Yep.
I remember sitting there and going, "What was the point of doing an open beta when you were just going to release it as is? Why
Yep.
would you do that?" Like, I get the hype and like to generate excitement, but that was horrible PR because at the end of the day, it hurt them more than it helped them.
Yeah.
Um, and then like it was clear from the campaign launch that multiplayer was the big thing because I remember sitting there
Yes.
and never hearing anything about like, oh my god, campaign's dropping. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It was like pretty much silent for the most part. Like there was a
And
lot of excitement, but it was
yeah,
silent, really.
and I feel like that was intentional because the campaign was utterly disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get that. I agree. Like I was super excited at first to play it. And like, it's the honeymoon phase of anything, right? You're
Yeah.
so excited for something to come out. You're really excited, you really like it, and then like when you take a
Ooh,
step back and
something
you
new,
look at it.
something shiny.
Exactly. Like you take a step back and you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I ended up finishing the game for the first time like a couple weeks ago. And I was just like, when I was done, I just kind of sat there and went, what happened to the third act? Because I know Halo 2, like they had to cut their third act, but they
Yep.
made the game feel like it was finished, right? Like when
Yeah.
you play it, you don't
Halo
realize that there was
2
a third act.
feels like a completed, polished game.
Exactly. You play Halo Infinite, up Act 1 and
Now,
2, and then Act 3 was like supposed to be this big thing, and then it never happened. It never
yeah.
reached a crescendo.
Now, I did start playing the campaign. However, I stopped playing the campaign about a month after it came out, and I have never touched it since.
Yep.
I don't feel like there's an incentive to complete the campaign, personally. It The campaign to me was really dull. I felt like it didn't have much of a direction. That was just my experience. And I
Hmm.
felt it was empty.
Yeah. The world was so massive that it was lifeless. With the amount of life that was in
Yes.
it, if the world was half the size, it would feel like the world was teeming with life. Like it
Mm-hmm.
would feel like no matter where you went, the Banish is there
The
crawling
Banished were
around.
there. Because,
Now, it's like what 5 minutes from one place to another,
oh
and
my
maybe
gosh.
you'll encounter three,
Like,
three like, or
don't
maybe
get
even
me
one.
wrong. The fast travel and the vehicles help with that, but they only go so far to help alleviate that issue.
Yep. Like it wouldn't be so
And
bad if there was stuff to do on the
yeah,
way.
but there's just nothing to do on the way once you complete it all. There's nothing.
Right.
And I feel like having it be an open world and then you set it up like that is a very poor decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're going to have an open world, you should still be able to like go around these areas and see like these, these previously places you cleared out from the Banished and they came back, retook it, and you have to clear it out again. You should be able to do that.
Yep.
For example, Far Cry does that, and it does it very well.
Far Cry does do that very well.
But they just didn't do that.
No, they didn't.
And it makes it feel so devoid of life in that game. Like, even in Halo 1, when finally touch down on the ring from the escape pod, right? You're immediately greeted by the Covenant. Immediately. Even though there's this huge open area. They're
Oh
there.
yeah.
You know they're there. And the world feel like there is something going on.
Right. It's
In
not like
Infinite,
yeah.
it's dead. It is stale.
Yep. Yeah, like they did a really good job with Halo Combat Evolved, where exactly like what you said. It's they introduced the enemy. The enemy has a presence of like, oh shit, this is like kind of crazy, right? Like they didn't tell you anything. You played it. Like that's the thing
Yeah.
I really wish in Halo Infinite that they did right off the bat was instead of watching Master Chief get his ass kicked by Atriox, I wish
Yeah.
that we were Master Chief getting our ass kicked by Atriox.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
that would have been such a huge storytelling point where it's like we're throwing you in here. Here's the Banished. Go fight them, right? Like immediately,
Yeah.
and then lose, right? Because like as the Master Chief, you have never lost, ever. You've never lost once. Imagine playing as the Master Chief where you've never lost, right?
And you get
And you
your
lose.
ass beat.
Exactly. How
And
crazy would that be? Right?
think about this. We see the cutscene of him getting his ass beat,
Yep.
right? And we're like, oh, great, let's go. We're going to go get our revenge. You can't even do that.
Right.
Because
It's like Atriox was killed off screen.
in the first mission, you already know Atriox is dead.
Right.
And it's like, what?
Yeah, and like for the rest of the game, like I played Halo Wars 2 where they introduced everybody. And I remember seeing him and going, I can't wait to fight this guy. Like if he ends up in the main series, I can't wait to fight him. Because he was such like a crazy strong enemy. And then like they go, oh, by the way, he died. Right? And like supposedly he died. I still don't know if that's true after being in game. I have no idea,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest with you. So I got annoyed with that, and I'm still very annoyed with that. You know, and I guess that's like the downfall and expectation from the game, where it was like the downfall is just that they had so many amazing moments that they didn't allow the player to fully experience. Like they have beautiful, breathtaking cutscenes. For the most part, they're breathtaking.
They do.
Right? They're not blur rated, you know. They're not blur quality, but they're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
They're better than Call of Duty. And they show a lot more. They do a lot more storytelling.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they had too much. Or in some areas, not enough.
Yeah. Like you never knew when something would or wouldn't pop up.
Right, exactly. And so like, you know, I guess like my biggest gripes at launch was like the fact that you had the campaign, you could beat the campaign pretty quickly, right? Like if you didn't spend any time going anywhere and you just went point A to point B to point C to point Z, you could beat that game probably in a day, right?
Yeah, probably.
I decided not to do that. So I played multiplayer. What was there, like 5 maps total in the game at that point? And like 2.
Don't get me wrong.
There were like 2 game modes when it first came out.
It was bad.
And there was no roadmap.
Even now, there is still a severe lack of content.
Oh,
for the multiplayer.
absolutely. I mean,
Like
you look at the multiplayer.
we've
That
had
was like their
what,
big thing.
2, maybe 3 new maps since launch.
Yeah.
And I doubt 3. Um, and there's little variation in events. Like it's the same 3 events they've been rotating in and out,
Yep.
and one of them just ended.
Yep.
So who knows when we'll get another one? Granted,
Supposedly in January.
Winter update says it is going to do some stuff, so we'll see.
There's hope on the horizon for it.
I'm keeping my expectations realistic, so I don't have very high expectations.
Right.
But yeah, no, the multiplayer suffers from a lack of content right now, and it's upsetting because even the multiplayer looks like it's going to be on life support soon.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like the issue that we're running into is the fact that they had no roadmap at launch.
Mm-mm.
And on top of it, 343 has a very bad tendency of making promises and then not keeping them, and then also being way too transparent with like development issues.
Yes.
For example, talking about this shoot, I'm actually forgetting what the engine's named.
It's also escaping me.
Yeah. Wow.
But the engine. We'll just call it the engine for now.
Yeah. Their engine, right? They talked about how it was too hard to make more UI, and it was too hard to add another like game mode immediately and things like that. Don't ever tell fans that. You never say anything like that, because that means somewhere along the line you as a studio fucked up and you made a very bad wrong turn somewhere. And then they choose to have no accountability really on it. They're like, well, you know what? It is what it is. We're going to step back and let the game fester, right? And like hopefully it gets better. And then it was like it was just it was way too much transparency on the end of, we're having development issues. Here's what exactly is going on. And then on top of it, not enough transparency on
they had the inverse
content.
issue. They had the inverse issue.
Yeah.
They were too transparent, and then they weren't transparent enough.
Exactly. I mean, look at the winter update. I mean, just like, this is what's insane. They had this planned out for so long. They talked about the winter update on like a little while ago when they released their roadmap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at how much is in this season content update. Just like the season content, I'm not even looking at like cores or battle pass or anything like that.
Yeah.
Straight up season content. Free 30 tier battle pass. That's great for people who don't want to pay. You know, 2 new maps, great. A new multiplayer mode, that's cool. Yeah. And then like there's the new features where co-op play is coming out. Campaign mission replay, which was very downplayed and no one really talked about, which is actually a huge thing.
Like every single Halo game, with the exception of 5 to my knowledge, had co-op for the campaign.
Yep.
Infinite didn't even have that, and they knew they didn't have it. And they kept delaying it.
Yep. They delayed it, and then they cut. What was it? It was split screen. They cut split screen when they promised that they would keep it.
And now they're just doing online or co-op.
Which at least we're getting online co-op.
Like, which is, don't get me wrong, that's definitely an improvement, but you're really taking away split screen co-op?
When it was so close to being done, too. It looked like it was really close to being done.
Of all the things you would take out, and that has been in so many Halo games, why would you remove it?
Right.
It's frustrating because, you know, if you have a buddy come over and you guys just want to hang out, play the campaign, you don't want to like play the multiplayer, which I'm gonna admit at times is very sweaty. You just want to sit down and play co-op, but you can't even do that now.
Yep. Now you have to have a LAN party.
Yep.
But like, this is what I'm getting at. There's all these new features that, like, yeah, they were known, but no one like made a big deal about it. Like, they're like, oh, it's releasing at this point. Or like Match XP Beta, the thing that just was announced like a couple days ago. Like, that's huge. Same thing with Forge's open beta. That's
Mm-hmm.
again huge. Other quality of life improvements, the rebalance of the sandbox. Like,
Yep.
this is all huge stuff. They didn't talk
Like
about any of this in any of their seriously big announcements. All they
like
had
the
was these
blank shot
15-minute
fixing.
um announcements.
Yeah. Like the amount of things they're going to try to fix, which will be very good because I have experienced almost every single one of those things they listed in the winter update. And it's been so frustrating when you play multiplayer.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're finally going to do something about it, and it's been almost what, a year since the game launched?
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
I
November 15th. Less than 2 weeks from today, it will be a year old. And these are issues that they're just now fixing in multiplayer when should not have even been issues.
Yep.
Especially when you play any other Halo game, like especially in the MCC, these issues are almost non-existent.
Yep. They blamed the tools that they had and not the fact
And
that they continued to make promises and break their trust
yeah,
with their people.
and it's a sad excuse at this point.
It's a horrible
Like you
excuse.
can I know more, you know way more about game development than I do, but as a consumer, I will only go so far to stick my neck out for a company that makes games I enjoy.
Right.
Doesn't matter how much I love the company. If they're being idiots about it, sorry. Nah, you've crossed the line. You dug the hole, you can lay in your grave.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, there's hope on the lines. Look at how much that they've fixed, right? It feels more smoother.
Yes.
It's a lot more stable now.
Like
Mostly the matchmaking queues are kind of fixed.
yeah, they are better. And admittedly, like I have experienced more stabilized FPS, um, more specifically on my PC and my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
I did play the game again on my PC, my laptop, and my Xbox. I will note it is a 1S and not the most recent generation. So obviously it is not the best Xbox out there, but it still ran most of the games that were newer that came out.
Right.
And even there, I did notice there was still some stabilization in the frames, and it was a little more smooth, less stuttering,
Right.
which was nice. It was really nice.
It's like they are working to making it better. And this is essentially we're kind of seeing the age of No Man's Sky development. Remember when No Man's Sky released and they claimed
Oh,
that they had multiplayer and then they
oh,
didn't?
you mean that dumpster fire
Yeah, the dumpster
that
fire that ended up
basically
becoming one of the
ruined the
biggest
game?
games. Yeah. But
And then it's
it
had a revival.
oh it dude, it's
But that's
huge
because
now.
someone actually said we're gonna fix this because someone messed up, so we're gonna pick up the pieces now.
Right. They stopped making promises to their fans. I mean, they don't even talk to the fans really. They tell the fans, "Hey, by the way, this is happening." And oh, by
Yeah,
the way, we just released another huge content update. Go play. That's literally what they do. And I want 343 to do that, but you need to earn our trust to start doing
honestly.
that because they are so silent to the point where it's kind of scary how silent they are. Whereas No Man's Sky's developers, they are as silent sometimes, but you're never in a content drought because there's typically more than enough stuff going on, and then they leave hints for what they're doing next
Yeah.
inside the game, which is why wouldn't 343 do that,
Yeah, in
right?
Infinite, they're not even throwing us a bone right now.
Well,
With the exception of the winter update, which was
right,
promising. But
right,
prior to that, we got nothing.
right. There
Almost
was
nothing.
right, again, no roadmap in any way, right?
Nope.
No Man's Sky doesn't have a roadmap. But the issue is that when Halo Infinite launched, we all knew it wasn't going to be at a full ready state. So the next
Yeah.
thing you expect as a consumer and as a developer is, hey, there's got to be some sort of roadmap or plan that they might release to the
Like,
fans.
we want to see
Never
where
got
it's
one.
going to head.
Exactly. We got one maybe a couple months ago, but at the very bottom of it, it said everything is nothing on here is set in stone, basically, and it's all due to
Yep.
change,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which means don't hold us accountable for anything, and we'll get you whatever we decide to get you on those dates,
Yeah.
right? Which is like, again, that's okay from I understand that from a
Like
development perspective, but from a consumer perspective, where they've lied to you and basically
like
spat in your face, it's
it's a
bullshit.
little frustrating.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I can definitely understand why they would do that because sometimes things just happen, which
Yep.
things happen. So what are you gonna do about it? Be mad about it? No, just move on with your life.
Right.
But when after you've been like lied to and spat in your face, it's just frustrating to see that. It's basically an out for them whenever they want to.
Yeah, and like, let me clarify too. When we're saying like we're being spat in the face of, it's mainly because we were fans of like the Bungie games, right? Like huge fans of the Bungie games. And when 343 took over, it was okay. Like they did their own thing at first, and then Halo 5 happened, and then we don't talk about Halo 5, and then
No, we don't talk about Halo
Halo
5.
Infinite came back, and we were like, holy shit, it's a revival of the old days. They took back the artwork to make it like more
Mm-hmm.
Bungie-esque, and they made it their own, and they still like you definitely know it's a 343 game, right?
Oh
Like they
yeah,
have
for
their
sure.
own signature now on it. But to be honest with you, it fell short of like the typical Halo like bar. Like the
Yeah.
last game that got even remotely close to the Halo bar, and I'll be completely honest with you, it was Halo 4. Halo 4 was a phenomenal Halo game. It felt like Call of Duty, but it was awesome at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
I I will admit I did like the Halo 4 multiplayer. Not quite as much as, Halo 3 or
Yeah.
Halo 2, which some of the best multiplayer ever. Um, but it was still an enjoyable multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
It's not like you're trying to bash your skull in because of the issues like in Halo Infinite multiplayer because it's you want to have fun in the multiplayer, but it's so hard to sometimes.
Right. And like this is kind of getting into our opinions on the games. But like, you know, 343 did a really good attempt to like bring back the early moments of Halo. Like you can really see
Yes.
that in Halo Infinite. And it's like it's really nice to see that. But they missed a mark on so many different things, like
Yeah, they did.
content and modes, and then replayability from the idea
Re-
of just replaying missions.
it's not there.
No, it's
What
coming. It's
in the
coming this
world,
week.
once you finish it, it's done. And if you want to do it again, you got to start the campaign all over again.
Right.
And it's like why can't we just go back and play those individual missions like you could in the old days?
Right. And like I completely agree. I completely agree. You know, they did a really good job on iterating on the movement though. That grapple
Yeah,
hook. Holy shit.
I
That's my
I will say
favorite thing.
I do enjoy the movement a lot in the game and the things they added to make the movement feel really fluid and really good.
Yeah. Like
It,
yeah.
it's always just a nice smooth experience it feels like when you're moving around in the game.
Oh,
And it
absolutely.
makes it really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's
It's
one of
just when
those.
everything else is lacking, it takes away from that so much.
You're absolutely right. You know, yeah, like I wish the sandbox was a little bit bigger. It's already
Yeah.
a big sandbox, but I would love. And by the way, for anybody who doesn't know what the sandbox is, the sandbox is the amount or the pool of weapons that you can get in the game. Currently, there's
Hmm.
three different factions in the game where you get three different factions of weapons,
Yep.
which is cool and like that's really fun and great. But there's not enough variety in that. You still
No.
have the AR, your typical like snipers, and then you
Yep.
have like the hyper focused single shots
Yep.
that are basically a straight line from point A to point B, right? My
Also, a
issue,
lot of the weapons that are currently in the game are just bad. They're
yeah,
just not fun to use.
right. Like the BR is still good, right?
Oh,
That
of course.
that's pretty fun to
I'm glad.
use.
I'm glad they still made it good. It is still very fun to use.
But the Ravager sucks.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
I like at first I was like, oh, this is a cool gun. Like I could get used to using this and I could see how to use it in like multiplayer. I tried it in multiplayer and it's so bad. Like in campaign, it's mildly better, right? Like I could take out
In
grunts and everything
multiplayer,
else
it
with
just
it.
feels like it puts you at such a disadvantage.
Oh, absolutely. You pick it up and you're like, oh, it's like having a plasma pistol.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Except with the plasma pistol, you can actually take out an enemy's shields because of the charged up shot.
Oh, absolutely. Like yeah, like there's so many things that they kind of stripped away with
Yeah.
it, but at the same time, they did okay, like trying to bring everything back. And like again, I'm not gonna say Halo Infinite was good in any way, other than the fact that 343 tried their best to make
Yeah.
it, well, not their best, but they tried at least to make it more friendly to older
There was an
fans.
attempt.
There was an attempt. Like look at the art. I mean, the art was
Yeah.
clearly an attempt to bring it back to old Halo esque types. And
Yeah.
then the same thing with like um trying to bring back some older Halo vibes and things like that. That was great. I will give them a 10 out of 10 on that. For everything else though, like I can't even tell you how disappointing it is to
Yeah.
have yet another promise to make sure that things worked on day 1. They released it and then said, "Oh, by the way, the game wasn't really done, so you can't really blame us." It's like, "No, we are going to blame you because what happened on the production end of things? Like
Yeah.
who made up the deadlines and then went, "Oh, by the way, we did like a 4-year engine rebuild and like that
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen well, so we're just going to release the game and hopefully something happens." That's not how you do that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
and
but that's not how you do that.
that really affected, I think, a lot of the optimization issues that
Yeah.
happened when the game first came out. And I think some of those issues still even exist now because, like I said, I played the game on my PC, my laptop, and the Xbox. PC was just fine. There was a couple frame stutters here and there, but it still ran very well, pretty smooth. However, the load times
Oh,
on the
yeah.
laptop and the Xbox One S were abysmal. They took so long to load.
Yep.
And
Load
my
times
and my
suck.
and my laptop isn't any slouch. I'm not gonna lie. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's the most amazing thing out there,
It's got a 20 series card in it, right?
but I don't think it has a 20 series in it. But it's got a 16 something. I don't
Probably
remember. 16.
1660.
Yeah, 1660 in it, which
Yeah.
pretty decent graphics card for a
Yeah.
laptop at least. Still so long, and there was still some stuttering of the frames. Like you'd still get some points where it's like, eh.
Oh
And the
yeah.
game was almost unplayable on Xbox One S.
Yep. Like
I
look.
I don't think I hit 30 frames at all the entire time. The long load times, the stuttering, it it just made it unplayable and just not a good experience. And don't get me wrong, I understand that when newer games come out, you should have they're going to need newer hardware. However, when you can't even adjust the graphical settings on Xbox so that you can at least try to get more frames, or that they didn't even attempt to try to optimize it, it feels really bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it. Yeah. They've done a good job trying to keep it or get it up to snuff where it should have been. But it's incredible because they keep on. They could have just moved to Unreal Engine, and I understand why they didn't. But it's incredible. Just some of the stuff that they keep on blaming and stuff, and they need to just stop blaming and start doing. Like look at MCC, like the MCC's main menus and stuff. I don't think you know this. I found this out the other day.
Hmm.
All built with Unreal Engine, and all the other games were just basically DLLs, which is like a dynamically linked library
Uh-huh.
that you could just call functions and run the game.
Really?
Basically, yeah, that's how they did it. So everything else is Unreal except for the games themselves. Those are all still the original engines that they were in. Isn't that
Huh.
insane?
That is. And I will say, for MCC, they did a very good job with the menus. They made sense. They weren't insanely difficult to navigate. I do think that some things were awkwardly placed.
Absolutely.
Um, but overall, it's still a good experience, and it's still fun to play the MCC.
Completely agreed. Yeah. Like the other thing too, and like we're gonna start wrapping up the 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 podcast here. But like, the idea behind the what they did with the MCC and why it's so exciting to see, and again, this is a kind of a horrible thing to say, but Bonnie Ross gone from 343 as the head. Because all she did was she kept on making promises for the entire studio. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you heard her, she would say something you would expect the almost the exact opposite half the time because
Yeah.
she couldn't stop making promises. If she stopped making promises, we would have had a way better experience with everything so far.
And I do agree with that. I think that unrealistic expectations were made,
Yep.
and I think that Bonnie Ross, whether she intentionally did this or not, I don't know. It feels as though she intentionally, went back on those things, but I can't say that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of really great momentum going forward now because with her gone, it opened up the door for someone else to take the stage. The
Yep.
guy who led the team to fix the MCC. The MCC is now a phenomenal game. You go
I
and you
love
play
it.
that, and it feels like it was made by the original devs, and it's super,
Yes.
super well done. Like they did a great job now.
It feels good. All of it feels good to me.
Yeah,
I still go back in and I play ODST, I play Halo 3. I'll even go back play Halo 1 because I just enjoy Halo 1.
yeah. I mean, I'll go through the matchmaking queues and stuff, and it feels good. There's no waiting, or at least there's a little bit of waiting, but
There's a little waiting, but
it's not like every time I play a match, it kicks me out right
yeah.
back to the menu, and then I have to start matchmaking again, and I have to go back into the queue
Mhm.
system and all that. It's like, dude, there should be a setting that's just like continuously queue, yes or no.
Yep.
Might affect your CSR, which is how they track your ranked multiplayer stuff. So that way they do skill based matchmaking because oh boy, that's such a huge thing.
Yep.
But either way, there's a lot of hope for the game coming up because they have that guy leading the studio now, and hopefully, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipes,
Yep.
especially for this winter update.
The winter update sounds like it's going to bring a lot of quality of life improvements, which, um I am going to keep a realistic expectation, which is a very low one.
Yep,
Um because frankly, I can't trust that they will fulfill all those things or even be able to.
yep,
But, if they can, that would be great. Bring some shimmer of hope back to the game and maybe get to a state and a place where it can be, fulfill its potential because it still has a lot of potential. It's just got a nasty, rusty coating of grime on it.
yeah. I like here's some of my hopes for like the future of these game. Okay, I really want to see it gets more game content quick, meaning
Yes.
like more modes, more, maybe even more campaign, more like weapons, more
Yeah.
just more diversity than, the typical oh, we have like six weapons or like four weapons from each faction. Have
Yep.
fun. Like here's all the fan favorites. It's like, dude, give me all the really cool weapons like, you know?
Man, I want my Magnum back. Give me my Magnum back.
Seriously, or even the Halo 2 Magnum. Remember that?
Oh, even that thing. I will take that over the sidekick.
Yeah, and it's like just bring those back. Like add them into the game. You added them into Halo 5, just add them into this one. Like it really should not be that crazy to do.
No.
You add that in. You should add in more and you should add those in for both campaign and multiplayer. I
Yeah,
know
absolutely.
balancing weapons can be a bitch.
Hmm.
But if you do it, it makes the game a lot more replayable because then you don't
Yes.
have just 15 weapons and like all their different variants to go through. And to be completely honest with you, the variants most of the time just do like something a little bit more better, a
Yeah.
little bit better. Like, up there's more damage now, or
It's
up
not
there's a little
even
bit
a
more of
significant
this.
improvement.
Right, right.
It's
Or
It's
up,
just
it's
something
red,
small. Yeah,
right?
like I know exactly what you're talking about. Like the energy sword, that special
Yep.
one you get in the
Yep.
campaign. Yeah, it's just marginally better
Yeah.
than the regular energy sword.
Yeah. It's like okay. And then like the last thing and I'll leave this and I'll let you go ahead with your hopes and stuff. But like the last thing I hope for is more reliability on 343 where we can actually start hoping and holding them to accountable for what they're doing
Yeah.
and that they hold up their side on of PR where they when they say that they're going to do something, they go and they do it. And if they say, "Oh, well, we were a little bit too ambitious with our, goals and stuff," that's completely fine. Right? Like that is
Yeah.
completely fine. But we
Like
need
at
to
least at
just
that point they're being honest.
right. Right. So, like hopefully in the future they're better about it.
Yes,
That's just my
hopefully.
hope. So
You know,
anyways, on to you. What's your hopes?
honestly, I there's not much more to add. Like I hope all those same things. Like I said, I'm keeping my expectations realistic. I'm not having super high hopes, but I'm hoping they can fill a lot of the gaps that are currently in the game. There's a severe lack of content. I really hope they fill that in because you can only play so much quick play or fiesta or just call it swap, please. It's not tactical slayer. Don't change it. Ugh. Anyway, um they just need to fill the gaps because
Yep.
after 3 matches in multiplayer, whether it's big team battle or just any of the standard game modes, you're like, okay, I just played this same thing 3 times in a row. The map just changed. And not that the maps are all bad. Some of them are pretty good.
But they're mostly set up the same.
But yeah, they're mostly set up the same. They're pretty linear.
Well, I mean
And
like look at like Halo Reach where they had that one
yes,
remember that the map where it's a basically there's a red base and a blue base, but the blue base is like in the wall. It's like surrounded by this glass above you and then to the side, but it's surrounded by full metal walls all around you except for one area where it's just
yes,
glass and there's a sandstorm going on. Do you remember
yes.
that map?
I do remember that map.
Remember how it was like sniper? How it was like the kill
Oh,
zone was on the floor or on the
yep,
ground where there was like a bunch of pylons that you could
yep,
hide behind.
yep.
But that map design horrible for pro gaming, right?
Oh
Horrible
yeah.
for it, but fucking awesome for social. I remember
Oh,
playing that and
absolutely.
playing it for hours, just that one map because it was just like there's so many different ways you could approach a battle. Like
Yes.
it's not the 3 lane BS that we have today
Like
where it's like, oh, every map
the
is like that.
it feels like they just took inspiration from Call of Duty maps and there's just 3 lanes of travel.
Yeah.
Now,
And
not all Call of Duty maps are like that, but unfortunately a lot of them are, and it doesn't make for a good variety of gameplay.
yep. You know what maps are like that though? Almost every single one of them. CS:GO.
Yes.
Almost
Yes.
every single map is like that, where it's 3 lanes or
Yep.
more, and you can lock them down, right?
Yes, you
And then you
can.
have to figure out how to get around it.
And
It's the
that's part of the
same
core
thing now.
gameplay.
Yep.
But that's not Halo.
That's not Halo at all.
But now it's
Exactly.
starting to be Halo.
Yeah. So that's like the biggest thing, you know?
Yeah. But I just hope they fill in those lack of content areas, keep improving the game, those quality of life changes, that are supposedly coming in the whipped update. I hope they come because that would be really nice, especially like those latency issues, um, the blank shots, the ghost melees, getting killed when you're behind a corner or a wall. I hope all of that gets changed.
That would be awesome. That would be really awesome. So our final kind of section, and this will be like kind of for the podcast, and like in general, it might not be in every podcast, but it should be in most of them. Final question of will we ever play this game again? You can go right ahead and go first.
Um, After the winter update, I will try it again. see how it is. Maybe I'll try it sporadically here and there if it looks good enough. Otherwise, probably not. I'm gonna be honest, I probably won't,
Yep.
because I just don't find any enjoyment in it.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times I've installed it and uninstalled it, or
Yep.
installed it, opened up to the main menu, and listened to the music and went, I don't feel like it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I've literally
See,
sat there and like I would listen to the music and go, what do I want to do? Because typically like my go-to in Halo is firefight and then
yep,
campaign. I
yep.
can't replay the campaign.
Like,
I don't want
I
to
do think
start
they
from
need the
square one.
they need a firefight or a co-op mode or something,
Yeah,
because Halo Reach firefight, so much fun. ODST firefight, so much fun. They even added something to ODST firefight more recently.
yeah, it was the flood.
The Flood, and that is like easily one of my favorite flood firefight game modes.
Me too. Me too. You know, it's that kind of stuff where it's just like it fleshes the game out more and gives it more stuff to do. And it doesn't make you sit there like I love the Halo music. Don't get me wrong. I will install it and
Yes,
just listen to the music all day
they
long.
did a good job on the music.
They did fucking awesome. The content in the game, it's not there. It's just not, and
No.
that's why I say I will install it and I'll uninstall it. And I've done
Yep.
that constantly because I will want to play the multiplayer for some reason. I want to play the multiplayer.
You play it, and then you're like, yeah, this isn't it.
I don't even get to playing it. I open up the multiplayer screen and I'm like, I don't feel like it anymore. So I'll just remove it off my hard. I'm not even kidding. I'll remove it right off the hard drive. So like, will I ever play it again?
Wow.
Probably. I will probably play it again at some point when they bring back more content, when the game is more fleshed out, and when I can actually play with my friends without feeling like, God, I just played the same game mode on the same map 6 times in a row within the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how I'll leave that. You know? If there's a DLC that comes out for the campaign, I'll play that. I will play it. It's Halo. I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But anything else, like this winter update, really great. I'm super excited to see what happens with it, and I'll listen with bated breath, right?
Yep.
But that's it.
That's all you can really hope for at this point.
Yeah. But well, I think with that,
Yeah.
this has been the Griffin Initiative podcast, the first ever episode.
First one.
So, yeah,
Hopefully
thank
there
you.
will be more to come.
Absolutely.
Well.
I think there will
I
be.
know I enjoyed it. We could just talk about all sorts of game stuff, tabletop or anything.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we'll have to do a podcast on, or at least an episode on Far Cry.
Oh yes,
you
absolutely.
played Far Cry 3, right?
So I haven't played 3 yet, but I have played 5.
Okay, that's one I haven't played. I played 3 and 4, and 3 was fucking awesome. 4 was pretty good.
I've heard only good things about 3, and
3 is really good.
I have 3 because I got it in a bundle with 5.
You should play it.
Played it yet?
You should absolutely play it. So yeah, maybe we'll do an episode on Far Cry 3.
Yeah,
but
I think that'd be fun.
We're not going to say when it will be because I don't know what our next game will be or when it will be. But, there will be another game. We'll probably talk about actually 7 Days to Die. That would be a really good one to talk about.
That would be a really good one to talk about.
Because it's a really fun game. But it's the epitome of why everybody hates early access.
Yes. But anyway, that's a conversation.
That is a conversation for another episode. Thank you guys so much for listening in. Wherever you guys get your podcast, you can find us. And have a great rest of your night or day. We'll see y'all next time.
See you in the next one.
Bye.